just got off work. I should have made this recording way earlier because my experience, which I'm about to share with you, happened at about 5:30 in the morning. Unfortunately, this morning I just didn't have time, or else I would have made this recording right after the experience. Now, for those of you who follow my channel, you know that I've been having some issue doing Beyond Body, leaving my body lately. And well, this morning was pretty much a classic Beyond Body, but let me get right into the experience. It's cool. I know I was excited this morning. I'm still excited about it, even though this was a very brief experience. So first, for those of you who are interested, I had on storm sounds. It was about 5:30, 5:20 in the morning. I was doing my usual studying Spanish, those types of things, working on things, and I decided just to lie down for a moment to rest my eyes. Now, I'll be honest with you. I definitely had intent to have an experience. Sometimes these things just surprise me. They just come, and this time it was not like that at all. It was something that I wanted to happen because it hadn't happened for a while. And so I made the intent to do it. Now, I've talked about technique before, some of the techniques I use. I share them here mostly because for me, as I have always said, I believe everyone has their own unique style of doing this. It's a very personal thing. I share it because if it would help you, that would be great. I don't know if it will help you or not, but I know that it works for me. Now, I've used a few different techniques. One of the techniques is when I imagine that my third eye, right at the center of my forehead, lights up with a golden glow. That helps me to induce astral projection or the beyond body experiences. Something else I've used in the past has been when I stand on a mountain. I'm imagining myself standing on a mountain, holding a rope, and right before sleep comes, right as I approach it, I let go of that rope and I'm able to go to that in-between place, that sweet spot. That's what I call it. Now, this morning, around 5:30 in the morning, I just came up with something new. And that was just to imagine that I was flipping on a light switch, like flipping it on, flipping it off, flipping it on, because to me, that's what it feels like when I go into that space. Some people call it the vibrational, getting into vibrations. I like to say that it is raising your vibrational frequency, but I always think of it as, this is exactly what it feels like, guys. It feels like someone's flipped on a switch, and suddenly I'm aware, but I'm aware in an entirely different way. Now, this is what happened at 5:30 in the morning. After imagining that I was flipping on these switches, suddenly I was there. I was in that moment. I was in that in-between space. Now, usually with the beyond body, I feel a certain amount of movement. I feel turning. I feel myself maybe sometimes falling off the bed. I'll feel myself angle upwards and then take off into the air and just go, go, go. But this morning was different. And for those of you, by the way, for those of you who don't know what the beyond body is, the difference between the beyond body and astral projection is, in astral projection, you feel a definite separation from your body. In the beyond body, for me, it feels as if my entire body is in movement. Really, honestly, I feel zero separation. So that is the difference. And normally with the beyond body, I'll feel all kinds of different things. I'll feel myself being turned one way, then another way. Another thing is, and this is another really interesting thing, in previous experiences with the Beyond Body, I have felt hands helping me, turning me, moving me, picking me up. Guys, I haven't felt hands in a while now. So those hands, which I believe belong to my guides, my helpers, they're letting go. I guess you could think of it as almost like if you're raising a child and you're helping that child to walk, and then you just kind of let the child go, you're still there watching as that child is trying to move about to catch them if something were to happen, but you basically let them walk on their own. So I think that's really kind of what's happening. And in the moment that I felt that in-between space, I felt myself sort of rise up into the air, like my whole body rise up into the air. And then suddenly I was walking in darkness. Now, again, for those of you who have listened to my Beyond Body experiences in the past, I usually go through many steps. Sometimes it's instant. There are times when I'll just appear somewhere, but many times what's happened in the past is I go through a lot of different steps. Well, I've come to the point now where it's just very smooth transition. And as I walked in darkness, the darkness slowly began to lift. And suddenly I found myself in an apartment. Now, the apartment was well lit. It looked like the average kind of apartment, if you can just imagine that. There wasn't much there to really draw my attention other than something that was hanging on the ceiling. And there were 3 things that were hanging on the ceiling. I am certain that many of you probably celebrate Christmas. Maybe not everyone does. But for those of you who do celebrate Christmas, you'll know kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about tinsel, the kind of shiny thing that goes around the tree. That stuff, I saw that hanging from the ceiling. And there were 3 of these things hanging from the ceiling, and they swirled downward. In other words, they weren't just lying there or hanging there in straight lines. They were like corkscrews. They were, it's hard to explain, but they were frozen in this sort of corkscrew pattern, and they were hanging from the ceiling. I'd never seen anything like that. I went up and I examined one of these objects, and there was a tag on it. And when I looked at the tag, there was a picture of, the first thing I noticed, it was either Daffy Duck or Donald Duck, one of those. It was some iconic cartoon character. And around that, there was writing on this tag. Now, think of if you go into Target and you were buying something and you were looking at a price tag or something like that. That's what this kind of reminded me of. Kind of bigger, square kind of a tag. And I attempted to read what was on the tag, and I've talked about this before in some of my experiences, the words were all turned around. It was like I was dyslexic. It was like things were backwards. They were all out of whack, and I could not read what was on that tag. And I have to tell you, it's a very weird experience because, I love reading. I've always loved, going through books, and it's a weird feeling not to be able to look at something and know what it says. It really is a strange thing. And this was all turned around. I couldn't understand anything. So there was a door. I was standing right next to a door that apparently went outside. So I opened the door, And I walked out. And what I wasn't expecting, guys, I was not expecting it to be so dark because, as I said, it was very much lit in this apartment and it was very dark outside, really dark. And as soon as I stepped outside, these dogs started barking, scared the heck out of me. I was like, what is this? Now, I think the smartest move probably would have been to go right back into the apartment again, but for some reason, I did not do that. I started, well, first I saw it was in darkness. I could barely see it. There was this big, huge poodle. I mean, it was big, but a poodle, like, the dog, like a poodle. And it was barking at me. And then there was another dog that was barking, and I couldn't actually see it. So I started to back away, nervous, like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I think I've made a big mistake. And suddenly, the other dog I think I felt it when I think I may have backed right into it. I turned around and the other dog was right there. Now, this was not a dog, okay? This was another interesting thing. This was not a dog, guys. When I saw it, it looked like a bear, but it was a bear fused with a dog, mixed with a dog. It was bigger, as big as a dog. So it was bigger than a normal dog, but it had fur like a bear, and it had a snout like a bear, but the other features were almost dog-like. It was the strangest creature. One of the stranger creatures I've seen. I've seen some strange ones, as I've described on this channel, but I was looking at it like, oh my gosh, and my hand went out sort of as like an instinct, like to kind of push the dog away, and guess what it did? I shouldn't call it a dog. I don't know what this being or creature was. It started licking my hand and nuzzling up against me. It was actually quite friendly. Very interesting, guys. Very interesting. Moments after that happened, I came out of it and I was drawn back and I was back in the 3D world. But anyway, I laid there in bed just thinking about everything, and that was it. I had to get ready for work, and that was the experience. Always interesting experiences. Thank you so much for coming on another journey with me, and until next time, take care.